Welcome to the Healers Café, the #1 show for medical practitioners and holistic healers to have heart-to-heart conversations about their day-to-day lives while sharing their expertise for improving your health and wellness. Welcome to the Healers Café. Today I have with me Dr. Deb Muth, and she's a leading authority in integrative and functional medicine, known for her groundbreaking work in chronic illness, hormone optimization, and mitochondrial health. She also is the founder of Serenity Healthcare Center, which is the largest integrative medical practice in the Midwest. And I think rather than go on to more details, you also have you also do many things. You have a business school. You also got past MS individually. So let's just welcome you here and thank you for spending some time with us.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure being here. I'm excited to chat with you.
Well, I guess I'll start with my first question. What actually intrigued you or got you into the field of, naturopathic medicine? You're a naturopath as
Yeah,
well, right? As
I
integrative
am.
medical. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened? How did you get there?
Yeah. So I started out in nursing school and had a degree as a nurse practitioner. And at 28 years old, I got sick. Then nobody could tell me what was wrong with me. So I had all these weird symptoms, this pain and this fatigue and all these crazy things. And I went to my primary care doctor knowing I was coming out with one of two diagnoses. He was either going to diagnose me with fibromyalgia or MS. I left with a fibromyalgia diagnosis, a script for narcotics, a script for an antidepressant, and he said, go home and prepare to be disabled in the next 4 years. I was 28. I just had my child, my last son, and my career was really just starting to flourish as a nurse practitioner. And I remember sobbing in the car and thinking, how could this happen? How could he be telling me this? And then as I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, why didn't he address the fact that my body temperature was 95 and it's 100 degrees outside and I have a fleece jacket on? And he never said anything about it. And the tech came in 3 times to take my temperature to tell me there was something wrong with the thermometer, all 3 of them, right? And I thought, hmm, when I gathered my thoughts, I thought something's missing here. And back in the day, this was 25 years ago, I had my quote unquote wacky friends, my witchcrafty friends, as we used to call them. And they were into holistic medicine. And at that point, I had no idea what holistic medicine meant. To me, it was just this weird foo-foo stuff about diet and spirituality and who knows what else. And I called up my girlfriend and I told her what was going on. And I said, you know somebody that can help me. And I'm going to tell you that I know nothing about this. And I don't even know if I believe it, but I'm not willing to be disabled in 4 years. And luckily, she was a great friend and she did not mind me teasing her about being witchcrafty. And she took me to a friend of hers who was a nutritionist. And we sat down and chatted. And what she knew blew my mind away. Like I was looking at her like, I know none of this. And I'm a graduate as a nurse practitioner. How do I not know any of this? And we talked about thyroid and talked about nutrition. And by the time I left, I had this very strict diet that 25 years ago was really the diet from hell back then, because there was nothing you could have as an alternative to no gluten, no dairy, no sugar, no nothing. And I went home and I said, you know what, I'm going to give this a try. And within 3 days, all my symptoms were gone. And I thought,
Wow.
wow, there's something to this crazy stuff. And so I started learning a little bit more and a little bit more. And as my career took me in different places, I kept coming across people that were using herbs and natural medicine from other countries. And I felt like they had this huge knowledge base that I was lacking. And it was when I was working in the inner city of Milwaukee with a lot of Hispanic clients that were bringing their natural traditions to us as we were caring for them during pregnancy and sharing with me all these different things that they did. And I started to go, wait a minute here, something's amiss. And that was what intrigued me into looking into natural medicine. And I started on my journey of becoming a naturopath.
Wow. Well, it's quite when you hear, a prognosis that is
Mhm.
debilitating. You think it's just bad table manners, or not table, but bedside manners, but
Right,
it's
exactly.
really it's lack of openness too of
Mhm.
what is actually possible. So
Right.
I had MS too. So funny that you have the same background, and that's about that long ago. So
Yeah. Yep.
and and healed naturally. At that time I was already a naturopath. Um, so it wasn't the reason I became one, but it
Mhm.
certainly was a wonderful lesson during. So
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
So you've been in practice.
Mhm.
What is do you have a focus? Sometimes we're told if you have a focus, it allows the practice to get bigger.
Mhm.
What's your situation that way?
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of focuses. I think I have ADHD when it comes to what we do in the practice. Um, so I started my own practice in 2011. Before that, I co-owned another practice with two medical doctors. And when I left them, I came into my existing practice that I have now. And my focus was chronic illness and hormones primarily at that point. And since that time, it's really morphed into a whole bunch of things. I have 5 practitioners that work for me, two health coaches, and we treat a little bit of everything at this point. And I understand from a marketing aspect and from starting out where it's easier to focus on one thing, but I think sometimes that one thing pigeonholes us as well.
Yeah.
Especially if financially times get difficult, the first thing people are going to cut are the things they don't necessarily need. So if your practice is primarily a luxury of some kind, like for instance, hormones are kind of a luxury. People don't have to have them, but they feel a whole lot better with them. That would be one of the first things that they would start to cut or push off. Where if you're dealing with somebody with chronic illness, they really don't have that luxury of doing that. And so I think having a balanced business from a business standpoint actually helps you survive during some of those lean times in business.
And it's purely a marketing thing, and
It
if it's
is.
genuine, right? Like
Right.
that people, you know, feel like this is the thing, the one area that they just know inside out, they can't help themselves, it makes sense, but
Right.
I know, um, because in my practice, I also had people, naturopaths working for me, and we talked about all the marketing angles. We need to
Mhm.
have a little focus. You do digestion and digestive health, and if
Mhm.
anyone comes with that, we'll send you there. So we were sort of kind of copying the allopathic model of
Mhm.
separating people by their ailments, which we know is not how it works.
Right.
So it's
Right.
it's it's kind of an awkward thing, but at that time that was the mentor and that's the recommendation. And
Yeah.
so, for myself, I chose pain because
Mhm.
with Bowen therapy as one of my main aids to what I do, people have pain, right? So,
Mhm.
it seems
Exactly.
somewhat natural, but I think for a lot of naturopaths, it's just not, because the scope
Right.
is big enough to help about anybody,
Yeah, I agree. And I
Yeah,
think,
so
the idea of talking about a topic or a dis-ease, right? An ailment, it's kind of whatever is the flavor of the day, right? 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it was all about SIBO. Now it's all about mold. And we can keep shifting all of those things. But ultimately, the message, in my opinion, should be more about what that person wants from their life. Instead of us talking about disease, let's talk to the client about what it is they want to have success in. And in that area, then it allows a naturopath to open up all the different tools that they have in their toolbox to help them reach that final goal. And I think if we speak from that
yeah.
message, we're doing the client a better service and we're doing ourselves a better service in business.
Absolutely. And I think, I mean, business works with a goal, right? So
Mhm.
often in health, it's like we've been trained to think, oh, get rid of this pain. So
Right.
we're always focused on the pain or the symptom
Mhm.
rather than the reason you want to have
Right.
no pain, and when you focus people on the reason, it
Mhm.
changes everything. It's like suddenly it's almost like their super conscious comes into gear and boom, we're ready. We're hearing the messages that
Mm.
there's
Yeah.
a goal worth attaining, and then you become more creative. You're willing
Mhm.
to go along with what you're prescribed, if it fits, the feeling, right? But yeah, no, I agree. So you have a business school to help also practitioners run
Yeah.
their businesses. Yeah, tell me a little bit about that and what
Yeah.
got you started in that.
Yeah. So I have a school called Functional Medicine Business Institute. Functionalmbi.com is the website. And what I found is a lot of practitioners that come out of school still feel inadequate. Nobody teaches us business unless you go to business school. So nobody teaches us that. And so starting out, it's very overwhelming. We don't know all the things that we need to have until it's too late. And so I help them set up their business structure from the very beginning and walk them through everything, help them find out who is their ideal client. How do we speak to that ideal client? What's your why? Why do you want to do this in the first place? Because these days are long and they're hard, and you better have a pretty good why, because some days the business beats you up, and if you don't have a strong why, you're not going to be able to stick with it. So we talk about that, and then I call it like office in the box. So I've been in business a long time, 25 years. I've put together pretty much every tool any business owner is going to need. So we share all of our protocols with them, all of our documents for hiring and firing and HIPAA and policies and procedures and medical protocols. That's one of the other things that I found such a lack in when people finish functional medicine school or even naturopathic school, not so much naturopathic, but functional medicine school, doctors and nurse practitioners that go to a functional medicine program. They come out needing a protocol. They don't know what herbs to give and what to give together and what's the dosing to use and how do I look at this lab from a functional standpoint. And so part of the component of our program is we sit down on a monthly basis and meet with all of our students, and they present cases, and we will help them put those protocols together and navigate some of those really difficult cases. And then we share all of our protocols that we use for every disorder in the practice with them as well. And so it really helps them feel not alone and gives them somebody to call on when they don't know what to do.
Mm. I mean, it sounds more than business, right? It
Yeah.
sounds like case, case acknowledgement, case
Yeah.
not
Case review. Hmm.
case review and all
Yeah.
that, which is yeah, I do find that that's a definitely a problem.
Mhm.
Less so, like you say, with naturopaths, because
Yeah.
we have almost 2 years of doing
Mhm.
clinical, that allows to have some confidence. But a lot of the problems I saw is not doing follow-ups,
Yeah.
not letting their clients know what's expected of them or their patient know.
Mhm.
How about you on your end?
Yeah, same thing. I had a great mentor early on, and he taught me if I wanted to have a busy practice and a successful practice, I would make sure that my clients had a follow-up scheduled before they left at their visit, and they knew exactly what they were supposed to do and when they were supposed to come back. And before he told me that, I was doing the same thing. I would just let them go and say, well, call me when you need me. And then I was giving a ton of free care away, and then I was getting frustrated. And so once I started scheduling those regular follow-ups, I found that it was so much easier for the client because they knew, okay, by this time they needed to make sure they had all these things done. And if they had a problem, they would call, but they were calling less often. So it was having to do less management in between my visits and less free care in between my visits because I scheduled those regular visits with them.
Yeah.
And that built my practice incredibly. Like I went from having maybe a quarter full practice to within a year and a half, I had a completely full practice just by scheduling my follow-ups consistently with my clients.
And I think too, though, a lot of the practitioners hesitate to do that because they feel like, well, maybe they don't need it, maybe, et
Mhm.
cetera, et cetera. There are lots of reasons that
Yes.
maybe it's not necessary in some cases, but I've
Mhm,
heard that, most of the patients, because as I was trying to give away my practice and as I was moving
mhm,
less and less and taking more space for Bowen College,
mhm.
it was that I heard from the patients, "Well, I don't feel like I'm taken care of. I'm left, I don't know. When do you think I should book?" And
Yeah.
so I just said, like, make it a thing, book
Mhm.
the follow-up and tell
Yes.
them you can phone, you can cancel it outright or move
Mhm.
it,
Yeah.
not yet the right time, you
Yep.
know? But at least the onus is on them and they're participating in their health project,
Right.
so, I think that's essential. What other things have you really
Yeah.
noticed that, practitioners needed help with or
I think they need help with talking to clients, like how to talk to them at a level that they understand. It's very easy for us to get into the science and get into the research because that's what we love, right?
Yeah,
But we forget that we're talking to somebody, A, who's not going to geek out on the science like we are, and B, they don't understand half the language we're using. To them, we're speaking a foreign language. It's like I tell my IT guy, you have to talk to me in English because I don't understand your language. It's like if I was going to start to talk to you in medical language, you wouldn't understand what I'm saying. And we have to talk to people in a way that they understand. It's not that it's demeaning to them, but it's not their world. And if we talk to them in a manner that they get, and we put the symptoms and the problems that they're having into their daily life and how it's going to affect their daily life, A, they understand it more. B, they're more inclined to do what we tell them to do because now it makes sense to them on a personal level. We can't just assume that everyone has the same goals and the same responses. Um, and then giving them something to take with them at follow-up afterwards is so important because we can talk for an hour and they're only going to retain a small fraction of what we talked about. And then they get home and they forget what we said. So if you
right.
can have something that you can send home with them, whether it's something in writing or you create a video, if you find yourself saying the same thing over and over again, create a video and then send them the video so they can listen to it as many times as they want. It'll save you so much time on the back end when they call and say, what did she say about this again?
What would your life be like if you were pain-free? If you were one of the millions who suffer from chronic pain, the thought of just one day without it may seem impossible. This is often because conventional medicine tends to fall short in the treatment of pain, opting to prescribe pills or recommend surgery rather than getting to the root cause of the problem. But if you are suffering with emotional or physical pain, there is hope. Join the founder and CEO of Bowen College, Manon Bolliger, live online for your body-mind reboot. Learn how to listen to your symptoms and get to the root cause of your pain. Plus, be trained in basic Bowen therapy moves so that you can reboot your body for optimal health. You don't have to live in pain. You can heal. Stop the pain pill cycle by visiting www.yourbodymindreboot.com to learn more and to register.
Yeah. Oh, so true. I
Mhm.
think down very similar paths. I
Yes.
I had a bunch of videos, when do you repeat like a remedy,
Mhm.
so that
Yep.
they do, because ultimately patients have to be, feel autonomous and be sovereign
Yes.
in their health,
Mhm.
But because of the lack of really understanding, like IT, it's not, it's just a different understanding.
Right.
They can be also fully hoodwinked, by safe and effective or,
Mhm. Yes.
statements that are,
FDA approved.
FDA approved. What does that mean? Like,
Right?
no, I mean, I think it's so important because, during this, I mean, I'm in Canada, so
Mhm.
we just got out of a month ago, where the healthcare workers in BC finally did not have to take this bioweapon only a month ago,
Yeah.
and we lost 17,000 healthcare workers.
Wow.
So you could
From
just,
just leaving the field?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just unbelievable,
Yeah.
But but the thing is that can happen, if you're not communicating fully
Yeah.
what it is that we want here. What is it we want? Is it just, the wiping off of symptoms, or,
Mhm.
or how does our immune system work? Why do we need these unproven, foreign, and now more and more dangerous as we find
Yes.
out, and I think,
Mhm.
with JFK coming up, we're gonna have it blown out in the public.
Yes, we are. There's gonna be a lot of shock, coming, I'm afraid.
I think so, but I think too, I was gonna ask you this, how do we prepare for that? Because I think, I thought when this whole pandemic started, um, I thought, I reached out to my board all excited. Hey, this is our chance to really do
Mhm.
something as naturopaths. Oh, well, no, we just had to follow. The board was bought and everything was,
Yeah,
anyway, it's just the crime is so big.
yeah.
But, I was naive thinking that we could, just do basic stuff. Uh,
Mhm.
that would help people boost their immune system and stay healthy and
Mhm.
therefore not succumb to 99 point whatever 9 points, whatever, some
Right.
ridiculous small chance of getting something, And
Yes.
but now we're dealing with a big problem because people have been have come to mistrust, but they have been lied to.
Yes.
And the people who have symptoms and those who, wonder if the symptoms are related or not, like this being lied to is a huge component of health.
Mhm.
Mental health is now deeply affected.
Yeah.
So I feel like the naturopaths or functional medical doctors almost, it's time to kind of look at this very seriously so that we don't have to talk about doom and gloom, that
Mhm.
there really are things to be done, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I
your
agree.
thoughts on
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a lot of things that we were not told the truth about, and a lot of things that were hidden from us. And the people who understand that are doing fairly okay with it emotionally. They're angry, they're doing okay with it. The people who didn't know that our governments are not great and we can't always trust them, and over the years they've used us as guinea pigs and things like that, where they really haven't had a clue about that. Those are the people that are really struggling now with this information that's coming out, if they even understand it's coming out, because so many of them are blind to it. They don't know.
it.
They're on vaccine number 7 or 8 and they don't have a clue, but they're starting to figure things out. And they still don't understand the magnitude behind it. They just think it was an error. And I
Right.
think when RFK brings some of this information to the forefront, even more so than he ever has, and the masses actually hear it, you're absolutely right. There is going to be a lot of mental health issues. There's going to be a lot of anxiety and anger and distress and post-traumatic stress of some of this. And as a medical community, we have to address this. We have to address that our medical system has not always been 100% on the up and up, and neither has the government. And how do we fix that? And how do we change that? And how do we support these people as they transition through understanding this is going to be very key to them coming out on the other side of it in a healthy fashion, both emotionally, physically, and spiritually.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I mean, some lessons are harder to take,
Yeah,
and I think the other thing too, I mean, at least when the well-meaning and honest medical doctors who spoke, like
yeah,
McCullough and
mhm,
there's I don't want to start naming because I'll forget
yeah,
somebody, but there
mhm,
thankfully have been quite a few, and they
yes,
were banned and censored and
yep,
that thing, of course,
mhm,
which is what the problem was.
yep,
Otherwise, we have more discussion on the subject.
mhm,
But because they're medically trained and only medically trained, um, it's really doom and gloom
yep,
because um, they don't see the body like we do,
right,
right? They don't
mhm,
their focus has never been on healing. It's been on
Mhm.
management, so really understanding that we can actually get better is not
Mhm.
within their scope, you know, not,
Right,
in that way, right? So
right. Mhm.
I think there's a real opportunity for not, I don't want to say alternative, it's the wrong word, but
Mhm.
parallel systems that
Yes.
do understand the human body and understand spirit and understand energy and understand all of it,
Yeah.
um I think, there's people heal spontaneously no
Mhm.
matter how dark it can be, and how it can be. Sometimes, you hear, oh, well, their immune system can't function as well. Well, okay, yeah, genetically there's been modifications into the genome, but
Mhm.
is that an incurable situation? Is that not something in epigenetics that we can deal with? Of
Right.
course it must. It must be,
Yeah, I
you know.
agree. And I think, this is what integrative medicine is supposed to be, right? The best of
Right.
both worlds coming together. The world of natural and spiritual and energy combined with the best of our traditional medical system as we know it. Our traditional medicine system really is herbs and plants and food and that kind of thing. But the traditional system, as we all know it now, because it's been stripped from us for so many years, but there are good things in both worlds, and if we blend them together, people can heal. But I've
Mhm.
never seen somebody heal who can't heal their spiritual or mental health, but they can heal their physical side.
Right.
They're always stuck in that limbo if they can't heal their body as a whole. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's so important. And with natural medicine, that's what's so nice is that we address those things differently than what our traditional medical system does with psychology or medications and things like that. And we go at it from spirituality and energy and herbs and things like that. And it's just different ways, but it's exciting to see that some of the natural modalities that in this country have now been squashed by the FDA have the opportunity of coming back again
Yeah.
and really truly healing people,
Yeah.
peptides and exosomes and things like that. Those are things that really can heal, and they're natural things. We just seem to want to make them a bad compound of some kind. And
Mhm.
I'm excited for it. I'm really excited for this time, and energy medicine being part of the basic and the whole piece, not just something that's foo-foo out here on the fringe that
Yeah.
you do behind closed doors and don't tell anybody about. I'm excited for that to come to the forefront of
Mm.
medicine again.
Yeah, I think it's we're definitely living, I think, in the most exciting time. You
I
know,
agree.
with all the discoveries that have been
Mhm.
suppressed, it's gonna be just wild. Because one of the things that animates human beings is creativity.
Mhm.
And when that's not being stopped, and like
Mhm.
imagine all the research that's been done, on cancer that has been
Mhm.
squashed, right?
Yes.
And people have been either persecuted, killed, their offices ransacked,
Mhm.
whatever,
Yeah.
something dirty, you know,
Mhm.
when
Yeah.
they're free to share that with humanity, and
Yeah.
and different ways and different points, and it's going to be so exciting.
It'll be so exciting. I mean, we have to remember our healthcare system in this country anyway
And when
is
we
sick
get
care.
behind what causes it,
Yeah,
and we
exactly.
stop,
Exactly.
I think we did. My Wi-Fi went off. Could you repeat what you just said?
Yeah, I was just
Sorry.
saying, we have to remember that, especially in this country, in the US, our care is sick care. It's not healthy care, it's disease care. And so there's no benefit from a profit place for people to be healthy. There is only profit if people are sick. And so the opportunity of really truly having healthy people and having people be financially well for helping people to be healthy instead of staying sick, that reward on the other side can be so great and really change the foundation of our people around. And it's very exciting. I'm super excited to be part of healthcare at this point.
Mhm. Well, so, well, gosh, we don't have much more time.
Mhm.
What would you like to, I mean, there's many questions. Like, how did it, how was that period? How did it affect the people in your clinic? We could talk about that. We could also talk about something else in your practice that you really want to share. So I'll leave it to you.
Oh, yeah. I think what I'd like to say, since we're talking to practitioners, when I got diagnosed with MS 2 years ago, I was really embarrassed and really hid from the diagnosis. As a naturopath, I felt so much shame that how could this be happening to me as a naturopath? I didn't want to tell anyone. I hid it from my staff for a really long time. None of my patients knew. Um, very little family knew. My immediate family knew, but nobody else outside of that knew because I kept thinking, what are people going to think of me if they know? Will they think of me as a practitioner that can't do their job anymore? Would they think of me as somebody who's inadequate because I let myself get sick? All of those crazy thoughts went through my head. And what I realized is it was the biggest and worst decision I ever made by keeping it to myself because I went through everything in healing my MS by myself. It took me 18 months. I researched everything myself. I did go outside of the world, out of the country here, and partnered with another physician in New Zealand who helped me, who actually turned me on to a great PhD practitioner in Canada. And I learned a ton from him about healing the brain and getting rid of scar tissue. And I think now if I would have shared that, I could have maybe healed faster and learned more and knew more and could have allowed my team to support me more because I felt so alone. And so, I want to encourage practitioners that are going through stuff like this to not be afraid of telling your story, not being afraid of letting people wrap their arms around you. You don't have to be the strong practitioner that everybody leans on and you can't lean on anybody else. You can be human, you can be genuine, you can be real. And now that my patients know about it, I mean, they're all so sad that they couldn't be there to support me during this time because I have patients that have been with me for over 20 years and they're like family and they would have been there for me. And I really wish I would have shared some of the things that I was going through during this time with everybody.
Mhm. Wow. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think if you feel lonely, definitely it's like there's a tendency with diseases to blame oneself.
Mm-hmm.
We have to take responsibility, yes, but that's very different
Mm-hmm.
than blaming oneself or feeling that, yeah, that how did it happen to us? There might be something we're doing wrong or whatever, right? That's a
Yeah.
big, I mean, I know I went through that.
Mm-hmm.
Myself, it's like, well, how can they trust me to help them with their problem if I can't even, deal with my own house?
Yes. Yeah,
You
very
know,
much so.
but yeah, I chose to keep it quiet for myself, because in part I didn't feel like I had the strength to deal with everybody's stories.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people are shocked or they well intended and they want you to do this and they want you to do
Mm-hmm.
that. And I
Yeah.
felt, no, you know what, I know what I'm going to do. And
Mm-hmm.
I created actually my own program to get myself out of it.
I did too.
You did too. Well,
I did too.
there you go. That's, but you're like so powerful.
Yeah, it was great. I
That's
mean,
so
I remember going to the literature and going, okay, what are all the things that cause MS and how does it relate in my life and what fits and what doesn't fit? And, you're your own guinea pig when you're a practitioner, right? You'll try
yeah, yeah,
anything.
totally.
And so that's what I did. I started playing with all kinds of different things and finally developed what I felt was like the best protocol. And 18 months later, I had an absolutely clean brain MRI with no white matter disease present at all. And that just
Right.
doesn't happen. You know, we've all been taught that can't happen. And Dr. Goodenow, who's in Canada, who researched plasmalogens, encouraged me to say, this can happen. And when I started learning about plasmalogens, I realized that that was the last piece of the puzzle for me that was going to clean away that white matter disease. And 6 months later, it was all gone.
Wow. And what is his name? I didn't quite hear it.
Yeah, Dr. Goodenow.
Goodenow. Okay.
Yeah.
And in what province is he in?
He is in Moose Jaw. So
In
is
Moose
that
Jaw. Okay.
Saskatchewan, I believe,
Saskatchewan.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, and there's so many different solutions. That's the other
Many.
incredible thing. Anyway.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I think that's the important thing, and the thing that naturopaths and functional medicine people gravitate to more than any other medical practice is that there is not a one size fits all.
Yeah.
It is very individualized, and everybody's story is different, and how they got there is different. And we take all of that into consideration when we're working with them.
Yeah. I think that's profoundly the basis of our difference. And
Yes.
I think that's it really holds the space for healing. Thank you very much for having this sharing as a naturopath and functional medical doctor. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. This was a pleasure. It was really nice to have this conversation with you.
Thank you for joining us at the Healers Café. If you haven't already done so, please like, comment, and subscribe with notifications on, as I post a new podcast every Wednesday with tons of useful information and tips for natural healing that you won't want to miss.